Weekly Bears.
Whoa! Welcome everybody. It's Friday. Can you believe it?
Another Friday.
Another Friday in the books. October 23rd. We always say what a week. We always say it's been a pretty wild week, but
You always say that.
well, we always say it.
Right.
But let's be honest. This was a wild week. This is a crazy week. All right, guys.
Good week. I get good bullish vibes this week.
Do you see these smiles? This is good week smiles.
This
right
happens to me every time we have good weeks. This was one week I'm like, dang, I do not have enough Bitcoin. I don't
my
think
gosh.
that every single week, but this was definitely oh man, I messed up. I didn't get enough Bitcoin.
Yeah, I was getting defensive with like some people on Twitter who were like, just stack my first Bitcoin. And I was like, dang it.
Yeah.
That's sats that I could have had
Yeah.
that they took away from me.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, I feel it. So, lots of news.
Yeah, lots of news, but I think the hottest news of the week, and the reason I'm feeling like I don't have enough Bitcoin right now, is because the price is rising. You know, if you guys watch this show, and Brandon, I know that you know me, I try not to look at the price on a weekly basis, but everyone in the space, no matter what you're here for, is going to get pumped on a bull run. And I'm getting vibes that, that's what's happening. But you tell me, you're more the price guy. What's going on with Bitcoin's price, and why am I sitting around losing sleep at night being like, dang, I did not stack enough sats?
Hey, it's a great question. And, I would want to start by giving a shout out to myself, as I should,
Right.
for calling last time we were under 11K. I think it happened. Like, I think, so far so good. We haven't tried to go back below 11K, and I think that we're just going to continue to kind of have that as a stable support.
You're patting yourself on the back because you, a couple episodes ago, said we'll never be below 11K again. And so far you've been right for 2 weeks, and you're taking your lap of victory based on that?
Correct.
Yeah.
Big back pats. No one else is going to pat me on the back. Sometimes you got to just do it yourself.
So true.
So since then, we've now hit 13K. Like, we're just below it now. We kind of dipped back below, but we're fighting up. And I would say, what the interesting thing to look at right now with the price movement is how relatively low volume there's been on the breakout. This is, it's a great move, and it'd be cool no matter what. But it's especially cool considering the fact, like, if you go onto Bitstamp or you go onto Bitfinex, any of these, OG exchanges that you don't have a lot of the fake trading volume bot kind of stuff that you have on these other exchanges, they are looking at, this is a lower volume than we had just back in March. So, like, we're talking about relatively low volume that we're looking at, and definitely lower than the price spikes of 2017. So that tells you that it's not taking a ton of buy pressure in order to hit these new price levels, right? You're getting basically you're seeing the effects, I think, of the halving. Like, you're seeing a removed liquidity from the system, causing the price to go up based on the same kind of amount of buy volume as always, and it's just like it's there's no one selling.
So even though the halving was many months ago and things seem to move so quickly in Bitcoin, that's obviously a fundamental change, a foundational event. But I'm surprised to hear you say you feel like the price ramifications of that are just hitting now.
Oh yeah, because you have to think about how liquid Bitcoin has been. Like, we've had Michael Saylor was able to purchase $500+ million worth of Bitcoin. That's just buy pressure. There's no selling going on of 500 million equal to what he's buying, right? Like, he's just taking liquidity out of the system with those buys, and it barely touched the price. Like, we didn't even know he did it until after he did it, right? There is tons of liquidity in the market, but when you have a whole bunch of Michael Saylors all doing that, and you don't have 12.5 Bitcoins being created every 10 minutes, eventually you're going to see that all catch up. And that's been this past, it tends to happen like every 6 months. You kind of start to see the effects of the halving. And here we are coming up on 6 months pretty soon.
Nice. That's some good analysis from you. But Brandon, if I know our Weekly Bits audience, and I think I do, what they really want is to hear another bold prediction that they can hold you accountable to in the future. Are you willing to put on your predictor's hat and make such a wild claim?
Well, I don't see the hat here, but that being said, all right, I haven't thought through these very much.
That's probably for the best.
Probably for the best. I stand by we're not going back below 11K.
We got
hat is here. Here we go. I stand by we're not going back below 11K. I would also stand by what I said, I think 2 episodes, maybe it was last week, that we'll see all-time highs by the end of the year. My big, I guess, prediction that I'll give on this one is that I'm expecting a face-melting candle coming very soon. One of those, like, green candles that just rips up, like,
my
1,000.
face!
Yeah, your face is just right in the way, and it just rips right through. Like maybe a $1,000 or $2,000 candle happening in the span of like maybe a day, really just pushing the price up. That's the kind of one you would expect it to be a retrace and like go back and kind of trade through the range that it ripped through. But I want to see that candle just print on the chart and just know that there is some pent up buy pressure, volume that's just going to hit the market all at once.
All right, well, I'll keep you accountable for all these predictions. We'll check in on them as usual. But there is another story, bullish, hot topic I wanted to ask you about while I have you here, Brandon. And that would be the news coming out of PayPal. So this was kind of all over the Bitcoin space, mainstream news. This was a major bomb, I'd say. It's an announcement from PayPal that users are going to get some level of access to BTC directly in their PayPal accounts. But flesh that out for me. What exactly did PayPal announce here?
Yeah, so huge news. Regardless of how much bigger it could have been, this is still huge news. And basically, PayPal has announced that you can buy, sell, and spend Bitcoin on their platform. It's crazy. This is stuff that we had talked about 4 years ago as like whoa, wouldn't it be crazy if, and here it's happened. This is it. So I would actually tie this back to a story we ran a few months ago, maybe a couple months ago, about the OCC comptroller talking about how banks could hold Bitcoin on their balance sheet, and they're allowed to custody it. Now we see PayPal basically saying, hey, we'll custody Bitcoin for you. That's effectively what they're doing, right? They are letting people buy, sell, and spend Bitcoin. Now, here's the catch. You can't transact the Bitcoin from your PayPal account. You can't send it to another wallet. You can't withdraw it. When you're spending it, you have a balance and you're spending it down using PayPal, but it's not like there's a transaction happening on chain necessarily that correlates to that spend. This is like PayPal account. They're doing the funky business in the background to simulate that you have Bitcoin, but you're not holding any keys. It's not your Bitcoin. So there's the caveat, but focusing on the bullishness of this and the craziness, this is now effectively hundreds of millions of merchants that use PayPal that you can now spend your Bitcoin wherever. I think
the merchant is in the 25 million range or something like that, which is still a huge boon to the Bitcoin circular economy as it exists today. But then the straight up PayPal user base is 300 million or something like that. So the exposure is no question. But when I hear that you can't hold your keys, that's a major red flag for me. Do you think PayPal users who are gonna, I don't know, should I be, I'm feeling a little bearish when I hear that, or a little bit concerned that people are gonna think they're getting on board to Bitcoin and not have the right kind of experience. Does that make you nervous at all?
I think everyone's going to have ultimately their own path of experience towards, self-sovereignty that eventually everyone will arrive at. So I don't feel the same twinge of, angst when I hear that people won't be able to hold their private keys. I think eventually they need to be able to hold their private keys, but I'm not as concerned that they can't do it yet. I would be interested to see how people's behaviors react to this. Maybe they're holding Bitcoin on PayPal, they're sitting with it, it's going and growing in value and that kind of stuff. And then they're like, man, I really wish I could withdraw this. Why can't I withdraw? And like they start the learning process. It's just get people to dip their toes in, get people to peek into the rabbit hole. And once they do, all you need is Bitcoin Magazine to give a little push.
That's right.
And then boom, they're Bitcoiners.
So I would have to imagine PayPal was having a pretty good time just being a kind of fiat online payments platform. From their perspective, why do you think it was important to jump into Bitcoin and especially do so right now?
Well, Pete, we've actually seen a lot of companies trying to jump into Bitcoin. So I would actually say that this is a trend that we're going to continue to see, and it's going to even be bigger than PayPal. And, if I could flip this on you a little bit.
Sure.
We even have a resource that's come out recently about companies keeping Bitcoin on their balance sheet. Could you want to talk about that?
I'd be happy to. Yeah, I mean, I could see this connected to the PayPal news coming out now, as you say, but I had the chance this week to speak with Rodolfo Novak, aka NVK of CoinKite. He recently launched this website, bitcointreasuries.org, that I wanted to ask him about, because I think he's got a really good sense of this trend we've been seeing in the last few weeks. We've talked about a lot of these individual cases, but publicly traded companies, large private companies, are announcing that they're diverting some of their treasury assets into Bitcoin. And some of their assets is a ton of capital flowing in from like a retail perspective. So Square spent $50 million on Bitcoin, for instance. And they're not even close to the largest Bitcoin holder on bitcointreasuries.org. So it does definitely seem like a trend. And when I spoke with Rodolfo about it, and I encourage people to hit up bitcoinmagazine.com, find the full story, video interview with him. He wanted to create this website to kind of list all these companies who are doing this, and he said to create some more FOMO and kind of see what other companies he can motivate to jump in when they kind of look at this list. And one of the things it does is compare the price that they got in at and what that value is today, and it's a ton of green right now, so that could certainly produce some FOMO, and just kind of like the general sense of the proportion of the supply that all these companies own together, I think would generate some FOMO. It sort of makes you feel like, oh gosh, is there going to be any Bitcoin left for the rest of us? We need to jump in right now.
Well, no kidding. And I think to your point too, what this makes me think is, and I'm looking at you, all of the Fortune 500 companies, the hundreds of you that are watching this show right now.
CEOs, listen up.
Yeah. What's your Bitcoin strategy, yo? These companies are all figuring it out. You're being left behind. So tell us, what is your Bitcoin strategy? I think that's part of what this website talks about, right?
Yeah, I mean, the website itself is a pretty basic listing of just the statistics behind how much Bitcoin these individual companies are holding. But Rodolfo and I did get into some of the strategies that companies are releasing along with their announcements that they've bought this. And in Square's case, for sure, it's like a template that you theoretically could bring to your own legal office compliance people at your company and follow that template and be like Square. Have a Bitcoin strategy that gives your treasury some kind of robust protection against inflation and whatnot, all the good things that Bitcoin brings.
So I know that we kind of teased this earlier, but on an earlier show. But I'd like to repose the question to you. What are some companies you think you're expecting to see get added to this Bitcoin Treasuries list soon?
I'm glad you've asked that again, because I want to make sure I asked Rodolfo that question, and his answer was kind of in 10 years we won't need bitcointreasuries.org because every single publicly traded company in the US will have some exposure to Bitcoin, so the list will just be a list of every single company. To answer your question, I have a hard time with this one because I'm with Rodolfo. That's kind of like the long view maxi take I like to have versus trying to predict what the price is going to be next week, Brandon. But I'm really pumped for win Walmart, win GE, win Coca-Cola, win McDonald's, win these major companies that have no inherent ties to Bitcoin. I think Walmart does enterprise blockchain stuff maybe because they touch everything. But that when Walmart hits, that's when I'm psyched. it's not really a prediction of who will be next, but Walmart's going to get in one day, and I think I might take the day off and just reflect on how sweet that is when that happens.
We'll be sitting on our yacht, right?
Yeah.
Just enjoying our Walmart yacht.
That's right. Welcome to the party, Walmart. That's what I'll say.
That's great. That's great. Well, we had kind of one more interesting story that caught our attention this week. It is an international story because we're an international company.
That's right. Well, Bitcoin knows no borders. So
that's true too.
You gotta keep up with the world.
So there have been these protests in Nigeria. I don't understand what's going on. Could you tell us what these protests are about and why there's a Bitcoin twist?
Yeah. So anyone watching who's kind of clued into more nuanced mainstream like international news. Might have heard of these protests. Nigerian people are protesting kind of like police overreach, specifically this special police unit that they're claiming overreaches really far, like kidnaps people and uses excessive force.
It's called SARS, right?
Which is called SARS, which at first to me was a little confusing. But
of all the acronyms to go with right now, you're going to call your special police force SARS? Of course we want to end SARS.
So SARS did get disbanded, but the protests are ongoing with some more demands about police overreach in the country. And this relates to Bitcoin because there is a protest aid group, so they themselves don't protest, and they're pretty clear about that distinction, but they provide masks and water and legal resources and medical aid to protesters to keep them healthy and safe. And they were accepting donations.
Is this the Feminist Coalition?
They're called the Feminist Coalition. I think they were formed maybe last year or pretty recently, and just a group of Nigerian women who originally formed to kind of advance women's rights in the country, but have kind of decided they want to provide some aid to the police protests going on. They were doing that by soliciting donations and distributing supplies. They were managing their donations with some traditional kind of like financial fiat rails that exist in the country, and then found themselves banned in mid-October. And so I think they told us that they just have some people on staff who are really into technology. It was their reasoning behind this, but eventually they onboarded themselves to BTC Pay server, which is an open source Bitcoin payment processor, and it feels like I'm sure it was some work on the back end on their part, but pretty seamlessly transferred from being blocked by the central banks in their country to going back about their business of providing aid to these protesters thanks to BTC Pay servers. So super bullish story. Not bullish on protests going down in Nigeria, but bullish on Plan B being like an option that lets you remain sovereign in the face of
and bullish on these protests. I mean, come on. These are protests being fueled by Bitcoin. This is corruption that they're fighting against. This is great, right?
Yeah. So all that whole angle, I think, is really great to see play out. I think sometimes we talk about how Bitcoin needs to be this type of tool for people, and then we get super obsessed with the price hitting certain levels. So again, this was a great chance to talk to the people from the Feminist Coalition. Check out bitcoinmagazine.com for more on that story. But that was probably my feel-good one for the week. And I think a great place to end the episode, but I know you don't like me to end with closing thoughts. You like to get the last word. So Brandon, why don't you close us out?
Well, I think that this is a great place to close out because ultimately, Bitcoin, we're here for the memes and, we enjoy kind of the fun aspects of Bitcoin, but do not forget how powerful this technology is. This is how you speak truth to power, how you wrestle back the ability to live a free and individual life because you don't have your value tied to these obscured money printers that control your ability to interact with the people around you. So, big score for Bitcoin. I'm so proud that BTC Pay was able to, help get the protesters back in a financial, situation that they can live with. And gosh, what a feel-good story to end it out. So thanks, Pete.
No, Brandon. Thank you. Thank all of you for watching.
Thank you guys.
We'll see you next week.
Have a great weekend.
Weekly Picks.